You know why dogs are better than cats? Because a cat will try to bite your hand off if you accidentally touch it in the exact wrong spot. But you could smack a dog in the nose and they're like, do you want to play Frisbee?
Silencio, Bruno!
Silencio, Bruno!
Silencio, Bruno!
Silencio, Bruno!
Can you still hear him?
Nope, just you!
Good! Now hang on!
I've been getting this question a lot, so why don't I sell my cookies? I used to sell my cookies. Cookies have always been my side business. I was selling them for the past 10 years, but it just doesn't bring me that much joy. For myself, it was actually really stressful and not worth my time even with the amount I was charging. One time I had an order for a custom gift box and it had 7 cookies in there and I charged $90 for it. That seems like a lot, right? It took me 9 hours to finish that box, and when you take out the cost of the ingredients, I made about $9 an hour. But on TikTok, one cookie or one video can make me about $40. So I'd rather be a
guarantee you're gonna wanna live with me. I got that la 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 la. Pull it straight from Tokyo. You cannot believe it when we come through. My God, you look good today. My God, you look good today. Back up.
Wouldn't it be nice if we could wake up in the morning when the day is new, and after having spent the day together, hold each other close the whole night through? Happy times together we've been spending. I wish that every kiss was never ending.
It's really not that bad. It just needs a little shaping. To the salon!
Shawty gon' get that paper. Shawty don't rap like Razor. Shawty go lick up flavor. All my tits and makeup. Yeah, pay her. Don't want a lot for Christmas. There's just one thing I need. I don't care about the present.
What is my perfect crime? I break into Tiffany's at midnight. Do I go for the vault? No, I go for the chandelier. It's priceless. As I'm taking it down, a woman catches me. She tells me to stop. It's her father's business. She's Tiffany. I say no. We make love all night. In the morning, the cops come and I escape in one of their uniforms. I tell her to meet me in Mexico, but I go to Canada. I don't trust her.
Okay, so here's part 2. So I call my mom and she's crying and I'm like, okay, well, that's gonna have to be put on hold because I'm at the ER right now and I'm about to die, which is, I think, any mother's just worst nightmare ever. But I told her not to come because I don't know what's actually going on. And I forgot to mention, I was supposed to be in San Francisco that night and I was supposed to fly out. And at this point, I had no idea if I was going to make that flight or not. So I go into the ER and my doctor is fine as hell. Like, I couldn't even pay attention to what he was saying. He was so good looking. But he basically tells me that what my doctor said was false. I was fine. It was just a stomach infection or something. And then he handed me my prescription and was like, here's some pills to help you with your diarrhea. And I died of embarrassment. He also told me I shouldn't get on a flight if my stomach was feeling that way. So I missed my flight and I had to cancel my trip. All of this because of a bad bag of hot.
For Cookie Cutter Flip Friday this week, I showed you guys a shape that I had used as a frog in one of my sets and asked you what else you saw. I had so many creative responses and narrowing it down to 3 was so hard, but I had to. So we've got Tom Nook from Animal Crossing, we've got a vintage camper, and we've also got 2 peas in a pod all using the same shape. Now, let me know which one you're seeing on your feed or which one's your favorite if you've watched them all. Come back on Friday. I'm going to have an all new shape picked out for you guys, and maybe I will cookiefy one of your answers.
So at the beginning of the year, I was feeling really salty about my Instagram growth for my business, or lack thereof. And so I just decided, okay, maybe I'll just put my efforts into my TikTok. And if I make a video a day, I'm going to see if I can get to 10K followers by the end of 2021. And on January 30th, I started doing that and I didn't miss a day. And then on February 18th, the other day, I woke up to 10K followers, which was crazy. This account grew so fast that I made this cookie to celebrate. And by the time I decorated it, I was already at 14K. So now I need to know, what should I do with this account? What do you want to see more of? Do you want cookie decorating, just straight up cookie decorating videos? Or do you want tips and tricks? Or what do you like to see? Because I like it here. I think I'm going to stay.
I had a conversation with a friend a while back about having kids, and honestly, it really irked me. I don't get upset or offended easily because I know people have their own opinions and perspectives on things, but this one was a little bit different. So we were both in our mid-20s, and she was talking about how she was so excited to have kids and definitely wanted to have kids before 30 because anything over 30 would be too old. I told her I knew women who had babies when they were 35 and everything was completely fine, and some women may want to wait until later because they want to live out their 20s. And I went on to say I wasn't sure if I wanted to have kids, and I feel like I would know later on in my 30s if I did. And then she went on to say what woman doesn't want to have kids? Who doesn't want a mini version of themselves running around? And that took me back because I feel like there's a good amount of people who don't want to have kids these days, especially in this type of climate. She went on to say that having a child is the most rewarding feeling any woman can ever feel. Like, that's not negotiable. It goes across the board. And that really rubbed me the wrong way, because is it saying that people who can bear children and don't want to have children just feel this emptiness inside and they're not sure where it comes from? Is it saying that women who can't bear kids would rather foster or adopt would never be as happy as a woman who had her own kids? And to be honest, not having a kid right now is kind of the best reward for me. And between my friend and I feel like we have different opinions on this because we had different life experiences. Like, she was an only child where her parents gave her everything and kind of spoiled her. And I grew up with a lot of trauma, so that's that. The most rewarding feeling to you is personal to you, and no one can tell you what that could be. Mine is pursuing my dreams and passions. Story time, let me tell you about my worst date ever. I was dating this guy for 2 months, and I was ready to tell him that I loved him already because I was young, dumb, and in love. So I had this romantic day trip planned out. The first thing that went wrong was that I left my wallet back at home, so I had to drive back, parked in front of the no parking zone for what I thought was going to be just 30 seconds, but he wanted to come in and fool around. And so when we came out, we got a parking ticket. It was $250, and I was so upset, and he didn't understand why I was so upset, which is a red flag right there. Then we got to this lighthouse during sunset, and I thought we were going to sit there and I was going to tell him that I loved him. But no, he was restless and decided to climb down the cliff, sit on a rock right near the water, and we got hit by a big wave that almost took us away. So we just left, and it was his turn to drive the 2 hours back, but he was too tired, so he had to take a nap on the side of the road in the dark. While napping, he jumps up, looks out the window, starts screaming, and I think, great, there's a murderer, we're gonna die. It was nothing. He had a night terror. A few weeks later, he had the audacity to ask why I didn't say I love you yet.
So I did a lot of online dating in my 20s because I was a teacher and really never had an opportunity to meet guys my age. And at the time, I was teaching and living in a small town. But I found that when I put that small town on my dating profile, I really wasn't getting many guys that were similar to me. So I lied and I changed my location to Minneapolis, which was really close to where I grew up and really only about 30 minutes away. And this guy started messaging me, and we really hit it off right away in the messages. And it didn't take long for him to ask me on a date. And I knew I was going to have to come clean with him, and that there would be a good chance he would totally ghost me after he found out that I lied. So I just came out with it and said, hey, just so you know, I don't actually live in Minneapolis. I live in this small town. And he said, great, that's actually where I grew up. I know the perfect place to take you. And now we're married.
After the manager tells me he's calling the cops for the assault of his employee, I started begging him not to. I was only 17, I swore it was an accident, and because my parents were out of town, I would have to call my sleeping grandma that I was staying with, who was a pastor, to come and get me. He then looks at me and says, well, unless you're just an idiot, you clearly didn't do it on purpose because you maced yourself. So I won't call the cops, but you have to give me your information for insurance purposes, just in case she goes blind. So I followed him inside the Sonic kitchen, went to his office, and gave him my information. I didn't sleep for days and never told my parents. Fast forward 3 years, the girl I maced came into the bakery I worked at and had no idea who I was. She ordered some cupcakes and I slid them to her saying, "These are on the house because 3 years ago I maced you." She burst into laughter and said it was funny now. Little did she know I thought I was going to prison for like a year. I've never seen her since, but I'm pretty sure she's a model in LA now.
For as long as I live and as long as I live, I will never not think about you. I will never not think about you. From the moment I left, I knew you were the one. And no matter whatever I do, I will never not think about you. What we had only comes once in a lifetime. For the rest, don't mind whenever come back. In my heart with the memories I made.
This girl who used to bully the shit out of me DM'd me on Instagram. We are going to call her Emma. Emma DMs me and she's like, "Hey, we should meet up at Starbucks. I want to catch up. I want to tell you stuff." And my dumbass was like, "Okay, let's do it." But the day comes when we're meeting up. So obviously I took an Uber there. I was gonna be a little late, so I called Emma and I was like, "Hey, my Uber's taking long. Can you please get my drink so we can talk more and I'll pay you back?" And so she said she would, so it was cool. I get to Starbucks. So me and Emma are drinking our drink and then I start feeling very sick to the point where I was fainting and throwing up really bad. So I went to the bathroom and this lady followed me into the bathroom and told me that the girl that I was with, Emma, put a pill in my drink and I was gonna go confront Emma about it, and by the time I went back, she had ran away. So I end up calling an Uber to go home because I was not feeling well at all. Like, I was dying. The Uber comes and guess who is in the Uber? Emma! She locks the doors immediately.
Hey y'all, so watch me decorate these cookies while I tell y'all why I decided to get a driver. So a couple months ago, this guy reaches out to me on Instagram and asks me to make his birthday cake. So I send him the invoice, to which he tells me that he's not going to pay it there, but he will Apple Pay me instead because somebody stole his card. He pays me almost $300 for his cake, and I get started on it because it's due in like 3 days. So the day before he's to pick up his cake, I asked him what time he wanted to pick up, and he said he wanted to come at the latest time. And so I said that was 7, so he said he wanted to come at 6. The day of pickup is 5:30, and I tell him that I'll see him soon, and he says he's on the way. At 5:58, this man messages me and asks me for the address. And I literally could have punched myself in the throat because I was already there waiting on him. So I give it to him and he tells me he's going to be there at 6:30. 6:31 comes and he says he's going to be there in 27 minutes. So I'm like, "Sir, you ain't about to get this cake today." Part 2.
I don't normally glue back together cookies that are quite this broken, but I was kind of curious to see if it would actually work. So to glue it together, you just use a fluid consistency royal icing and glue it like you would anything else. Just put it right down the seam and then press it together gently. And then I put a layer of icing over that seam on the top and then outline the cookie and flood it in like you normally would. I'm careful not to move it around too much while it's drying because I have rebroken them before they're completely dry. So I set it aside as close as I can to my workstation. And then you would never know unless you flip it over and see the back.